Unfortunately, the improvements are too small right now for AFC Wimbledon, considering considering the stage of the season that we're in right now, where we're just ahead of the relegation zone. The improvements need to be more dire. Fuck, I don't even know what to say. I mean, I'm not extremely disappointed with AFC Wimbledon's performance today, but I'm disappointed in the sense that, the woes offensively just continue, right? Only one goal in the last 6 or 7 games. It's woeful. I mean, it's the complete opposite of last season, right? Where in the beginning, the woes were defensively. Well, in the beginning of the season, last season, it was defensively. And then the middle of the season was offensively. We couldn't create chances. We couldn't score. And then later in the season, under Mark Robinson, we just played with so much heart and so much desire. And that being said, Fleetwood just made it 3-3 against Plymouth, just to rub salt in the wounds. How did Plymouth come back 3-1 down against a side like Plymouth? Or how did Fleetwood come back against a side like Plymouth? Fuck! Morecambe are still sitting 1 point behind AFC Wimbledon as it stands. AFC Wimbledon still have one game in hand against Morecambe and Fleetwood. Thankfully, we have Shrewsbury and Cheltenham as our next two games. Certainly winnable. Again, I'm not disappointed with their performance today. I'm just disappointed with the pattern that we've been seeing in the last 6 games. That being said, I think we looked a little bit brighter today than in previous games on the offensive end. I think we looked a little bit less predictable. There were times where we tried to play Cosgrave or Ablade centrally, and there were times where we played it outside, as per usual, overlapping runs to Redoni, and then Redoni tries to take someone on 1v1, plays the cross. 2-0 Ipswich. It's a very disappointing result. And as I already mentioned, I'm disappointed in the pattern that we have been seeing and that we just cannot seem to find goals. And we only have one goal in the past 6 games, I think. 6 or 7, I'm not entirely sure. But I think it was a more valiant performance today. I think AFC Wimbledon were a little bit less predictable on the offensive end. And I think what we showed flashes of brilliance, and I think we were a little bit more versatile in the final third today. I think that Aaron Cosgrave, although he didn't really show out too frequently, there were a couple of times in which he held the ball up. Half the time he held the ball up, the other half of the time he got muscled out by Edmonton Wolfenden. And then he tried to make a couple of runs down the 18-yard box. Didn't hook out wide too frequently as I was expecting him to do, considering that I saw his highlights when I first reacted to him being signed by the club. And I'm like, he likes to go on the outside a lot, make on-the-ball runs on the outside, use his pace. But a lot of the times he played as that hold-up, kind of like an Ole Palmer, except not as deep as someone like Palmer would play. And, he would try to make runs toward the top of the 18 instead of hooking out. And the likes of Asal mainly, and every now and again Osu and Redoni just couldn't find him on the through balls. I think AFC Wimbledon just kind of struggled to be on the same page with Cosgrave. But then ever since Terry Ablade came out, we saw a lot more success with Terry Ablade in terms of the runs. There was a really good ball played in by Redoni, chipped ball in for Terry Ablade, and Ablade held his run. He checked his run very, very well. And unfortunately, the pass from Redoni was just a little bit too heavy, and the keeper came out, made himself big. Ablade, the only thing he could do was to try to toe poke it past the keeper. That was the best chance of the game for AFC Wimbledon in the second half. A couple of other notable chances, I guess, from both sides. In the first half, really none to talk about from AFC Wimbledon aside from second minute. Paul Osu took a couple touches toward the center and tried to blast it probably 4 or 5 yards over the bar. And Paul also had another instance later in the second half in which he actually Cruyffed it past his defender, took a couple touches towards the center and tried to blast it, but it wasn't with enough power, straight at the keeper. But anyway, let me try to go in chronological order. 3rd minute, shot from Osu over the bar. After that point, it was just a stalemate midfield battle between both sides. Ipswich gave it away a lot on the midfield, but then AFC Wimbledon failed to capitalize with Ayuba Sal playing a couple of wayward passes, notably trying to play Cosgrave in behind, and a couple of times, didn't play it to Cosgrave, like he played it too far to the right of Cosgrave when he was making a run, or he played it behind Cosgrave as Cosgrave was trying to make a run, and just they weren't on the same page. Sal, I said that he should have come off around the 60th minute or so. He was kind of poor on the ball, but then all of a sudden, Ayuba Sal I should say all of a sudden because he was pressing for the majority of the game, but he found a couple opportunities where he dispossessed Edmondson mainly. One time he dispossessed, put across, and it was headed away. Edmondson found it, and then he got dispossessed again by Asal and played it straight over to McCormick. McCormick hit a shot from just outside the 18-yard box, curled it wide. And earlier in the half, that was about the 65th minute or so. Earlier in the half, second minute of the second half, 47th minute, McCormick with a really, really good marauding run forward, taking several touches, getting brought down by Edmondson. And then the free kick was just woeful. I mean, he blasted it 6 yards over the bar. Definitely not something that you would expect from someone like Luke McCormick. You would expect him to at least hit the frame. Luke McCormick was decent, but on the final third, just lacked that finishing touch. I think we did very good defensively for the most part. Choka and Hennigan were doing well defensively speaking in terms of positioning. A couple of crosses that Burns played on the right-hand side. Burns was a danger man all game. The likes of Hennigan and Choka would clear their lines, except for one instance in which Norwood found himself making a run in behind past Choka and then try to get a cross off, and Hennigan blocked it or cleared it out for a corner. The second half, the defensive shape started to look a little bit more frail. I think Ipswich, instead of, they played a lot to the right-hand side of Burns, and when they were on the left-hand side, they tried to play it to their striker, not Norwood, I forget the name of the other striker. But they played it up to Jackson too much, and Jackson would be pressed by the likes of Hennigan and Choka. But Jackson was more of a threat in that second half. I think he was dropping a little bit more deep in the hold-up, and there was one instance in which he dropped deep and then spun out, and he was able to get past his man, and he received a through ball there from Aluko, and then Johnson switched it over to the other side to Burns, and Burns drove it low and hard and beat Zanev. And unfortunately, kind of deja vu 20 minutes later, where again Burns found himself on the right-hand side. This time it was with AFC Wimbledon with like 9 players on one side of the pitch, and it was just Jackson switching the play easily over to Burns, and Burns just drove it low and hard, and unfortunately Ben Hennigan tried to clear his lines but couldn't get in position and just bounced off his leg and right into the goal. Burns was a danger man all game. Him and Donasian connected on several occasions in the first half. The second half, Donasian didn't go up on the attack as frequently, or should I say he wasn't as much of a factor on the offense in the second half, but him and Burns connected on several occasions. Burns and Backinson connected. Aluko was, even though he gave away possession a few times, and AFC Wimbledon were on the counter, AFC Wimbledon didn't capitalize. Aluko was decent on the offensive end. I think it was just a good game all around played by Ipswich. I think at times they played empty, negative possession, but in the end, I think they were just more clinical, and they were a little bit better in the final third than us. So it is what it is. We'll get some reactions from the Facebook, from the Twitter. And my man of the match here for AFC Wimbledon, I will say Terry Ablade. Terry Ablade came on. He's fairly dangerous. Not only that, but he actually timed his runs fairly well. Ablade won a couple, even though he's not the tallest player in the world, he won a couple of knockdowns from the long clearances from Zanev or from Ben Hennigan. Most of the time, the knockdowns were when the defender wasn't challenging him directly, but Terry Ablade getting in good positions to win the knockdowns, getting in good positions to make runs inside the box. I think he was fairly solid all around. I have to attend to something, so I'm going to cut it short. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.